Hello, good morning and good evening, everyone. I hope you have a great day and great night. I feel very sorry that I probably caused some confusion to most of you because too much information, too detailed. So some of you cannot catch the point from my talk. I try to make things clear today. And so I hopefully you can gain something beneficial from my talk. So first of all, I will give you recaps. To recap what we have discussed yesterday, here are some key points that I hope you to take away from material presented. So as you can see, the first point, the Heart Sutra reveals the personal experience of emptiness. And so worldly language and logic cannot fully bring across the message. So if you can understand the text, that's normal, but it's possible to really understand the text if we practice the teaching, okay? The second point, the Heart Sutra is an extract of larger Prajnaparamita Sutra. So, and also represents the essence of Mahayana. That essence is wisdom. The third point, Heart Sutra is about developing transcendental wisdom to overcome all suffering. That's all included in the first sentence. Okay. And the next point, the term Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva in the context of the Heart Sutra should be interpreted as one who realized the truth and is thus liberated from all suffering. And I remember Professor Reem give a good point, which is the characteristic of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva is great compassion. And this text is about deep insight or wisdom. So from her mouth or his mouth to teach the teaching is the combination of great compassion and wisdom. I think it's a very good interpretation as well. And next point, we can be a bodhisattva if we seek ultimate truth and want to save sentient beings. This is one of the definition of the term bodhisattva. And also we can be Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva when we are able to observe the truth and using prajna. Okay. Next point, prajna or wisdom is the function that allows us to observe the truth. Then emptiness is what prajna is able to observe. When we use prajna to observe phenomena and see the truth of emptiness, we can experience these truths that is beyond language and description. So that's all about the talk I gave yesterday. So today I will continue the talk. So yesterday we mentioned we observe different things such as 5 aggregates or 6 bases, no, 12 bases and 18 elements, etc. It is a technical term. I will give you the explanation by handouts, so you can read the information. Okay. So, but if you don't understand this technical term, it doesn't matter. It's just focus on 5 aggregates. These terms are the synonym of, not really parallel to 5 aggregates, which form sentient beings. Okay. The truth, that is emptiness, can only be realized by understanding the truth of all phenomena. So if one tries to understand emptiness in the absence of worldly phenomena, then the realization of emptiness is not possible. So emptiness is something separated from our world. We must to observe the emptiness through observing the phenomena of this world. Okay, so emptiness is revealed through worldly manifestation of phenomena, and it is due to emptiness that phenomena can manifest. Hence, when the sutras talk about emptiness, they always incorporate systems that cover all phenomena, such as the emptiness of the 5 aggregates and the 12 bases, etc. So, in terms of the meaning of due to emptiness that phenomena can manifest, here emptiness can be the synonym of dependent co-arising. So sometimes, I hope this won't make confusion to you. Emptiness actually has different aspects. So in this context, emptiness is the quality of the quality of dependent co-arising, okay, which means no intrinsic nature. So because no intrinsic nature, no fixed entity, so everything can grow, can change. Bad thing can become good. Good thing, if we don't remain it will become bad, etc. So everything is possible, okay? Aggregates means coming together in a pile or a group. The Buddha categorized all worldly phenomena into 5 groups. These are form, feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness. So now we are explaining the 5 aggregates. All manifested the physical things are grouped into the category of form. The manifested psychological phenomena are covered by 4 groups of feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness. Combined, these 5 groups are called the 5 aggregates. Okay. The aggregates of form has 2 meanings or qualities. The first is the quality of obstruction, and the other is the quality of change and decay. Probably some of you may have learned Abhidharma. If you have the experience of Abhidharma, a knowledge of Abhidharma, you probably have heard of this. So form has 2 qualities. 1, abstraction, and 2, change and decay. The meaning of or the quality of abstraction refers to how all phenomena with physical body will take up space. For example, a fan has the physical form of a fan and occupies space, right? Similarly, a clock has its form and occupies a certain amount of space. In this sense, both the fan and clock take up space, and if they were to meet, they would obstruct each other. They cannot occupy the same space at the same time. As for the quality of change and decay, this is when a physical item encounters another physical item, and the collision may cause these items to change, decay, or break up. Any phenomena that possess these 2 qualities is grouped into the aggregates of form. Clear? In terms of modern scientific term, form corresponds to the word matter. According to the Buddha Dharma, even the smallest particle of matter identified by science is still subject to change and decay. Ordinarily, we only see the overall appearance of phenomena when it manifests. Little do we understand that deep down it exists in a state of contradiction, and therefore we perceive that phenomena to be a real and a fixed thing. So here, the state of contradiction has a profound meaning. It means it's not what we perceive. We sort of regard something as fixed, but actually it's not. Okay. So, in truth, all phenomena in the form aggregate, from the beginning to the end, are constantly in a state of obstruction and is moving in the direction of change and decay. The above is about the aggregate of form, which encompasses all physical matter. In terms of psychological activities, the Buddha used the four groups of feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness to encompass all such activities. The mental activities are not as easily understood as external physical phenomena. Psychological activities are very personal to each being and can only be understood when we exert effort to self-reflect and contemplate on our own psychological activities. When the Buddha investigates the mind's activities, there are three main types that he focused on. So psychological activity can have four groups, but here we focus on three of them. Okay. The first type is the aggregate of feeling or sensation. When we make contact with external objects, our mind gives rise to a function characterized by receiving or accepting something. For example, if we make contact with an external item that is pleasing, what arises in the mind is a feeling of comfort, which refers to as happiness or joy. In contrast, when we encounter a displeasing external object, what arises in mind is a feeling of discomfort, which is called suffering. There is also another feeling that is neutral, where our feeling is connected to neither happiness nor suffering. And this is called impartiality. Okay. The second is the aggregate of perception. Here, perception refers to the function of cognition that arises when the mind makes contact with external objects. For examples, the examples of perception include mental concepts, as well as to understand external objects, to connect the external objects to something relevant, to analyze the external objects and reach comprehensive results, and so forth. So this perception aggregate is quite complex, I think. Okay. And all this falls within the function of the perception aggregates. This aggregate has the aspects of perceiving objects and to conceptualize them as well. Therefore, some people translate this as perception, while others translate it as conception. But this aggregate embodies both of these aspects. So sometimes when we read the Buddhist text, I mean modern Buddhist writing or book, when we learn about the five aggregates, sometimes we see this item, this group is translated as perception, and sometimes it is translated as conception. Okay, but actually this aggregate has both function. Okay. The third is the aggregate of volition. Volition here has the meaning of intentional action. When we encounter external objects, the mind engages in activities that look at how to accommodate or change the external object. Based on these mental activities, we follow through with actions that can be physical or verbal. Volition has intention, and based on this intention, we take action to address or deal with the external object. All other material activities concerning external objects that do not fit into the aggregates of feeling and perception can be assigned to the aggregate of volition. So this aggregate includes many mental factors. So we just mentioned the psychological activities can have four groups. So we have learned the three. The fourth is the aggregate of consciousness. Consciousness covers the whole gamut of mental activities. What consciousness does is to take the subjective mental activities of feeling, perception, and volition as its object. So feeling, perception, and volition can can be the subject to know the external object. But here, the consciousness can understand what they know, what these aggregates know. So this is the meaning. To take subjective mental activities of feeling, perception, volition as its objects. And then toward these activities of feelings, perceptions, and volitions, consciousness can carry out the function of discrimination and recognition. This is the aggregate of consciousness. On the one hand, consciousness is the main subject that cognizes all mental activities. And on the other hand, it is the overall collector and analyst that collect information from the aggregates of feeling, perception, and volition, and then reaches comprehensive results through analysis. So the five aggregates are one way that the Buddha Dharma categorize all physical and psychological phenomena. the Buddha's intention is not to focus on psychology or materialism, but rather to use the 5 aggregates, help people, use the 5 aggregates to help people understand that the 5 aggregates are also empty of intrinsic self or intrinsic nature. Ordinary humans feel that there is some intrinsic self that must exist with each person. But the Buddha reveals that there is no intrinsic self. What does exist is merely a harmonized functioning of physical and psychological elements. So no intrinsic self or intrinsic nature. If we look for an intrinsic self that is separated from the 5 aggregates, we will never find one, because what we can find is only 5 aggregates. Leave the 5 aggregates, we can't find anything. This body belongs to the form aggregate. As for emotions of joy, sadness, and so on, they fall within the feeling aggregates. Regarding recognizing the shape and form of external objects, it comes under the perception aggregate. With reference to desires to carry out certain actions arising from determination, they belong to the volition aggregate. Concerning understanding, collecting, and analyzing all mental activities, these all come under the consciousness aggregates. So this is a summary of 5 aggregates. I hope you can get the clear picture about what the 5 aggregates are. Okay. There are some Shravakayana practitioners who, when learning the Buddha's teaching on the emptiness of 5 aggregates, are able to overcome the attachment to the self as a combined phenomena. But toward each aggregate, some practitioners regard them as the fundamental elements of sentient beings, and they attach to these aggregates as real. Such a situation shows that they do not understand the true meaning of Buddha's teachings. Although they have gradually overcome the attachment to self, but their attachment to Dharma, which is basic elements of existence, becomes deeper. So the ancient masters teach that the 5 aggregates are empty of intrinsic self or intrinsic nature. That means there is no intrinsic self that can be found in the manifested being made up of the 5 aggregates, and an intrinsic nature cannot be found in each of the 5 aggregates as well. The reason is that each of the 5 aggregates arise due to causes and conditions. And so the functions and the manifested activities are also just an illusory appearance based on many conditions. So if there were any element within the 5 aggregates that is truly existent, then that would be the intrinsic nature. But an intrinsic nature cannot be found. So the 5 aggregates are empty. So now probably you become very familiar with the term empty or emptiness. In this context, it means no intrinsic self or no intrinsic nature. Okay. Nevertheless, although the illusory manifestation of function and appearance is empty of an intrinsic nature, it still has a form of existence. This is like water, which is made up of hydrogen and oxygen. And so it is empty of intrinsic existence. But water does have the function of quenching a thirst, watering plants, washing objects, and so on. And water has the liquid appearance as well. So from the aspects of function and form, generally we can recognize that this is object, that this object is water. So we can recognize what water is, but actually water is empty of intrinsic nature. Only when we apply profound wisdom to observe phenomena, we will see that all functions and form are notionally established from supporting causes and conditions. So this is what we know. Now, what the things really is. So when these conditions undergo change, the form will change and the function will no longer exist. So empty of intrinsic nature means nothing can exist forever without any change, okay? If phenomena really did have an intrinsic nature, then it should be the case that each phenomenon will maintain its form and function for eternity. It will not change and should not be affected by changes in the underlying causes and conditions. So when we see a baby, the baby will always in that form because nothing can change, okay, if there is intrinsic nature. But the fact is that all phenomena are not fixed and unchanging. This is like peeling away at the layers of a banana tree, okay? When you get to the end, you will find there is nothing at the core. The only existence is an illusory one, and we should understand through the way phenomena manifest that the underlying nature of all phenomena is emptiness. Only in this way can we abandon our attachment to the notion there is an intrinsic nature. As mentioned before, there are some practitioners who can accept that the compound self made up of the 5 aggregates is empty, but that the underlying basic aggregates are real. This situation is due to the varying degree of wisdom that has been developed. When one investigates the underlying aggregates using the same principle of cause and conditions, those with a deeper level of wisdom will know that these dharmas or aggregates are also empty of intrinsic nature. Hence, the Heart Sutra has the words, immersed in deep prajna, he observed that all 5 aggregates are empty. Here, the prajna, the fourth form is prajna paramita. Okay. There are some translations of the Heart Sutra that translates, observe that all 5 aggregates are empty. Us, observe that all 5 aggregates and all phenomena are empty of intrinsic nature. Intrinsic nature implies a real essence that does not change and is independent of all conditions. This kind of intrinsic nature cannot be found, and so it is said that everything is empty. However, this does not negate the law of dependent co-arising. So everything can exist, has its form, function, etc., but just no intrinsic nature. This is the meaning of emptiness. So emptiness is revealed when we observe the true nature of all phenomena. Likewise, all phenomena can exist due to emptiness. Emptiness and existence mutually support each other and are not contradictory. So emptiness and existence, because of emptiness, everything can exist. Because everything can exist, that shows the truth is emptiness. That means no intrinsic nature. Okay. So this view of emptiness and existence is unlike what people would generally perceive. Some people think that existence means there is something there, and emptiness means there is nothing. Such perceptions create a dividing line between emptiness and existence and assume the two never cross. So actually, emptiness and existence are not two different things, just two different aspects, okay? Based on the Prajnaparamita's teaching, emptiness and existence are very much mutually supportive, although the two seemingly appears contradictory. In fact, they are united. The Buddha Dharma concerning 5 aggregates aims to help us understand the nature of emptiness through the 8 of manifested existence, and understand that the doctrine of dependent co-arising through the truth of emptiness. So when we can investigate, observe, and experience all phenomena in this way, then we can transcend all sufferings. In order to completely transcend suffering, we must experience the nature of emptiness personally and truly understand that all phenomena are empty of intrinsic nature. So the way to transcend all suffering is to realize the truth. Only in this way can the sufferings that bind us to cyclic existence be totally removed. Hence, the Heart Sūtra says, transcended all forms of suffering. After observe that all 5 aggregates are empty of intrinsic nature. Okay. Here, I want to give you more about the meaning of emptiness. So emptiness does not mean there is nothing at all. Venerable Taixu, which is the teacher of Venerable Yin-Shun, once described his experience with emptiness when reading the Prajnaparamita Sūtra. This is a very interesting story. It's not really a story, it's something really happened, okay? Venerable Taixu told some of his close followers about 3 of his experiences. At one time, he gave a more detailed description. He was reading the Mahaprajnaparamita Sūtra, and when he came across the line, all dharmas are unobtainable, even if there is a dharma greater than nirvana, that too is unobtainable. Upon reading this, he suddenly experienced emptiness in both body and mind. But this is not like he lost awareness and sensation of his body and the mind. Rather, in this moment of being aware of emptiness, he no longer had the relative conception of himself versus the world around him. What he experienced was the multitude of dharmas around him, and he could see clearly that they had no intrinsic nature. This experience lasted several hours, according to his account. And he felt very light and joyous. So reading the sutras wholeheartedly and single-mindedly can also be a method to experience a deeper sense of emptiness and stillness. Common forms of meditation are not the only method, according to this story, but please note that such an experience does not refer to realization of truth. This is a kind of experience that happens when having superior comprehension of emptiness. So please remember, when we practice meditation or insight meditation or read the text, the Sūtra, sometimes we enter a wonderful state we never had. But this is not the state of realize the truth, of realizing the truth. It's just an experience of having superior comprehension of emptiness. But this experience will enhance our capacity to have sentient being and develop our wisdom to realize, to, how can I say, to observe the truth, actually. Okay. So when the Sūtra mentions suffering, this includes pain and all forms of hardships. The suffering that sentient beings experience can be grouped into two categories. One is internal or personal suffering experienced by body and mind, such as birth, aging, sickness, and death. The other is external suffering due to other subjects, such as separation from loved ones, unable to avoid those we dislike, and not getting what we desire. These various forms of suffering arise due to our ingrained attachment to the self and regarding it as having a real permanent existence. This self-view can be large, such that it encompasses a country, or small, such as a family. Due to this self-view, there arises mutual conflicts and suffering pile up one on another. All these conflicts and suffering are due to not understanding that there is no intrinsic self. As a result, the attachment to self leads to selfishness and slighting of others. So much so that one even sacrifices others for one's own benefits. So the disaster, all because of our attachment to a self, selfishness. Okay. So such problems can arise because we view things from our priorities, our beliefs, and thinking we are right. So we tend to object to others' view when they don't suit our preferences. Such selfishness arises due to attachment to ourselves as the real existence. So it's the important point to reduce attachment to ourselves, so that the selfishness will minimize, even be eradicated. Okay. As a Buddhist, if we want to improve ourselves, we need to learn to undo the view of a self and learn to see ourselves as not having a fixed intrinsic self. Then we can learn to be more tolerant and accepting of others, especially those different to us. When we are willing to sacrifice ourselves to benefit others, we are actually benefiting ourselves, and we'll come to realize that it is not a self-sacrifice at all. Why? Because we see the emptiness in ourselves and others. And so the fixation on me versus others dissolved away. And we see how we are connected to others. So when others are not suffering, we are not suffering. When others are happy, we are happy. In the actual situation, each person's way of thinking is the same. That is, people put themselves first and the others second. As such contentions arise, neither is willing to take a step back. So it is through such selfishness that suffering arises. So if we want to have a peaceful world without any wars, the first thing is to practice understanding emptiness, which is to reduce the attachment to ourselves. Okay. All phenomena are mutually dependent for their existence. That is, people need each other's assistance to progress and achieve accomplishment. When we truly understand that all humans and sentient beings exist based on closely connected relations, then we will work harmoniously to better each other, and sufferings from conflicts will not arise. This mutual dependence applies to the material world and each individual, as well as the interconnection between people. Moreover, the suffering from cyclic existence of this body and mind also arises from mutual dependence and not knowing emptiness. So, in summary, if we live our lives with ourselves as the central focus, then suffering will arise due to such selfishness. If we can penetrate the nature of emptiness underlying all phenomena, that is to realize no self, then sufferings will accordingly cease. The great compassion of the Bodhisattvas also arises from understanding the truth of no self. Because of the realization that all dharmas exist in mutual dependence on other dharmas, then Bodhisattvas realize that saving sentient beings is effectively saving themselves. When Bodhisattvas help people achieve their goals, they are effectively achieving their own goals. On account of such realization, Bodhisattva can carry out great acts of self-sacrifice for the benefit of others. When individuals are able to understand the nature of emptiness, this will translate into righteous behaviors. Likewise, when humans as a whole fathom the nature of emptiness, then the behavior of the human race will be righteous. When we have right view, there will be right actions, and this will naturally resolve the problem of suffering, and we can all attain true freedom. Okay, so far, what we have discussed covers the essential core of the Heart Sutra. So, the essential message of the Heart Sutra is covered in this first sentence. The following sections of the sutra provides elaboration. This part of Heart Sutra contain teachings for those with suitable spiritual capacity and for those with low spiritual capacity. Under part A, I think you have my handouts, right? So under part A, there's A1. A1 is the teaching about practicing Prajaparamita. The following sutra text is under the structure of A1.1.1a. Very complicated, which is to investigate or observe the unification of the manifested form and the true nature behind each Dharma. Usually, the true nature and the manifested object are treated as separate items. Here, the text teaches us to see the unification and inseparability. Okay. The text says, Shariputra, form is inseparable from emptiness, and emptiness is inseparable from form. Form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. The same applies to the feelings, perception, volition, and consciousness. So this is what the sutra says. This line is elaborating on the statement that the 5 aggregates are empty in the first line. Why are the 5 aggregates empty? To explain this, the Buddha or the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara addressed Shariputra as the main audience for this teaching. The name Shariputra is made up of Shari and Putra. Shari is the name of Shariputra's mother, and Putra means child or son. So Shariputra means the child born by Shari. Amongst all of Buddha's disciples, Shariputra is renowned as foremost in wisdom. The Heart Sutra aims to reveal profound wisdom, and so the Shariputra is chosen to be the main audience. I think it's time we should start. I'm afraid we have no time for Q&A session. Do we? Larry? Probably 3 minutes.
We can just end it now, and anyone who wants to stay behind, if you're willing, after we do the 3 bells, you can, ask questions and chat.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Good idea. Okay.
I'll keep it open for anyone who wants to stay behind afterwards.
Okay, we finish the lecture first, and then if anyone have question, we can discuss. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah, if you're happy to stay behind, we don't want to, impose and stuff like that. So, but other people probably have other things they want to do too. So, 3 bows to the Buddha. Bow to the teacher. Thank you.
Thank you.
And